welcome to Creativity Rules. I'm so happy I'm finally getting to talk to you.
Hello, Ridhima. Yes, same here. Finally, we are getting to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, sir, it's really funny because, sir, I had thought that you'll be opening Creativity Rules episode one but I understand you're leading this tremendous organization called YOTA, and you have been irrevocably busy with a lot of commitments. So I give you that benefit of doubt, and you're guest number three, so not bad. You made time, so I'm happy about it.
Thank you for having me, Ridhima. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So a little bit about this platform that we've created. Through this platform, this series, this show, this podcast, our intent is to get different thought leaders, different individuals, whether they are CEOs, self-employed, people who are leading verticals, to share their journey about how they reached where they did at this juncture of their life, leveraging creativity. And one of the starting quality about creative people is they follow very unconventional path. And when I see your, I won't say career trajectory, but however much I've seen of you in the last 2 years, I think you have a knack of leading people, leading enterprises, and leading your career in a very unconventional manner. So that's what piqued my interest to get you on the show. So, sir, as we start, I want to know from you, Mr. Gupta, what does creativity mean to you? And what is the role that creativity has played in your life as an individual to reach where you have reached today?
There's a multiple meanings of, I would say, when you're saying what creativity means, I can possibly put the first thing as thinking out of the box.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if we just go by what the conventions has told us, what others were doing, what my peers were doing, what my predecessors were doing, what my elders were doing, then I'm just doing repeat of. I'm not applying my mind. I'm just applying my hands and eyes, but I'm not applying my mind. Right? That does not mean conventions are not good or what other people were doing was bad. That's not the point. We have to learn from them, but have to keep on challenging that in the current situational context, whether those practices and ways of doing things are right or wrong, or should we change them, modify them suitably. And so many times we get too much engrossed into the current context of the problem. We are not able to see the big picture. That what is the root issue or the root problem this particular situation relates to? Can I have a different way of solving that altogether, which possibly people cannot see? And that thinking itself is creativity. Of course, once you start thinking about it, you start strategizing about it, step by step, you also start thinking about how will you execute that. You have to give a tangible shape to the execution steps of how you have thought about solving that problem. My second thing, which I always talk and I always keep on saying, that only strategizing is not enough. How you execute and how you plan the execution also is a part of creativity. Otherwise, you are just into a good living room and drawing room, but not doing anything. If it is not resulting into a benefit to the society or whosoever you are working for, it is actually not good enough. So having a big picture from a strategy point of view, thinking out of the box, creating a complete strategy so that you can visualize yourself. That is one thing I keep on saying. Can you visualize yourself, maybe what you will be 5 years down the line? Can you visualize yourself possibly standing on a stage, speaking to people and talking how you solve this particular problem, right? Once you start with, and also visualize yourself working on a machine, working on a computer, talking to people, solving some problem, working on an Excel, on a PPT. Once you start having a power of visualization, possibly you also start also having a lot of ideas of how creatively to solve a problem. That visualization power is important. Third is, while we may strategize very, very big, have large ideas, but the execution of that creative solution has to be step by step. If we suddenly get bogged down by, oh, I have to handle such a big thing, I'll never be able to solve it. The execution has to be very, very step by step. So it is like thinking big, thinking macro, but solving in a micro way. The third thing which I say is, most of the time, creativity does not mean creating everything totally out of nowhere, right? So many times you have got bits and pieces of the consumer demand or your people facing the challenge of having a very good quality vehicle at their doorstep whenever they want it, having the challenge of paying something which is by the rule book and not by the whims and fancies of the drivers and all, is something which is already there. That is, they are visibly available in front of us, that these problems exist.
Yes.
And people are willing to pay more also in case they get a quality service at their doorstep.
Yes.
There are also solution steps where there's so many vehicles available with so many people. There's so much of financing available everywhere. Those steps are there. We have the GIS, we have the Google Maps, we have those technologies also available. Somebody thought of creatively thinking and connecting these problem areas of the latent needs of the people and the solution area. Can I combine the ownership of vehicles, easy availability of finance, with the availability of Google Maps and the technologies around that, and create a solution in meeting these demands and supplies together? The demand of the people and these solutions which are available, can I put them into a single platform?
Yeah.
That is creative. And that's how Ola and Uber have come in. And same is Airbnb, and we can have tens of examples of that. So I would say the third part of my creativity is, the definition of creativity is connecting dots. You don't have to literally create everything from out of nowhere all the time. Kaizen, which in Japanese say Kaizen, is again, creativity never always means some big thing. In my thing, because that way only in a functional organization, only the product and services people will feel as if they are creative because they are creating a product. Yes. The fact is, even a person sitting in an accounts department, if he suggests some good way of handling a particular process, and he helps improving the process, automating a process, which leads to efficiency, it's creativity, right? Some sales person doing something, some accounts person, HR person. I mean, there's endless ways if people are trying to help improve and make the system efficient and effective by small incremental steps. That is also creativity.
So I want to dwell on this. Firstly, what I captured, sir, is you said that it's about Kaizen, making incremental improvements on daily basis. You said it's about thinking macro and solving micro problems on daily basis. You said connecting the dots, and you said combining big picture and out of the box thinking with some strategy, because it's also about execution. My question for you, sir, is a lot of people in the name of out of the box thinking, they create ideas which are not implementable or which get banners saying we're not ready, the context is not right. So according to you, in your mind, in your perception, how can we make out of the box ideas work?
Good question. First and foremost is your own conviction, right? How much you are true to yourself, right? You have delved on every facet of the problem statement or the opportunity, whatever you call it, in front of you. You have taken a 360-degree view of that problem, what the problem is, what is the root issue of this problem, and trying to put it on a whiteboard, how exactly this problem can be solved in a plain, simple English without getting into complexity of that. Having a very open mind and trying to apply, even if the answer is illogical. That is the first step always, which can be at a 60,000 square feet level.
Sure.
Second is, and the most important step obviously comes in that when I think about that solution, I start thinking how I can make it implementable. On the face of it, almost every step will look like it's not implementable. When you start applying your mind and that okay, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps I can take. In every single step when I do, what are the resources I'll require? What are the type of people I'll require? What are the type of steps I will take? What are the type of money I will be needing? What are the timelines I'm talking about? Once I start dwelling into those aspects, possibly I start also getting into whether what I'm thinking is doable or not doable, the feasible or not feasible. Obviously you can't be in fool's paradise also, right? Once you have done this step, which is thinking the broad strategy and also thought about the action that dwelled upon how you can possibly execute in maybe 7, 8, 9 steps and thought about the pros and cons of the feasibility of doing it. The next step is actually to convince yourself that yes, it is doable. That is the most important step, because if you are not convinced, you obviously cannot convince anybody else. And I think nothing in this world, in today's connected world, you can do alone. Unless until you carry a team together, and when I'm saying team does not mean the people reporting into you. When I'm saying team, it means the whole ecosystem. It may be your peers, it may be your seniors, it may be promoters, it may be stakeholders in general, it may be your neighbors, it may be your family who will say, okay, what have you started, end up doing, you are getting into something which is going to put our financial security also in trouble. So why are you doing something like that? So I'm talking about stakeholders. So having the conviction yourself and then being able to carry everybody along and able to explain them what you are doing, why you are doing, and how you are doing. I've used 3 words: what, how, and why. Yeah. Most of the time, people end up doing a mistake of telling their team what to do and how to do. They never explain to them why to do, right? I think fundamental theory or thought behind this is we as human beings want to feel respected. We want to feel honored. We want to have that, that feeling of self-esteem. If you just ask anybody, he may be your junior most fellow, just do this without applying the mind, you are actually questioning his sense of self-respect, that you don't apply your mind, just do what I'm telling. And if ultimately does it, you will get your, whatever credit of doing it, but I will get the credit of having thought about it. The moment you explain them that why we are doing what we are doing, you are making them a part of the solution. You are making them a part of the problem as well. Sometimes we feel, no, the team should be just a part of the solution, but unless and until you make them part of the problem also, I would say the problem solving process also, that sense of respect which they will develop for themselves, that I am actually trying to solve something, what is the big picture, and this is how it will benefit my team, this is how it will benefit my company, this is how it possibly will benefit humankind, society. That is where people start drawing a whole lot of respect for themselves. And once they have done it, you don't have to push people. They will become a natural team members in becoming a part of what you want to do. So that is the next part. And by default, that means a very, very good knack for communication. Unless and until as a leader, you have got a very good written and verbal communication. And so many times I keep on saying to people, under communication is bad, over communication is always okay. Right? You can do over communication, but so people just feel that log samajh jayenge, why I need to communicate. I said, even if you communicate multiple times, it's okay. And then finally, I think last thing which I again tell, and maybe in the start of this conversation we're starting, my message to my leaders and everybody is always, have the mindset of a child in terms of learning. Especially relevant, although we can say it for every facet of life, every industry, this is relevant in today's connected and digital age. But in our industry, which itself is the supportive, direct supporting infrastructure of digitization and I would say, digitized society, where every single day newer and newer things are coming in. Newer type of customer demands are coming in, newer type of competitors are coming in, newer types of ways of solving those problems are coming in. Unless and until you are a constant learner, you are just dragging yourself, pulling yourself behind. So having the mindset of a constant learner and having a respect even for a junior most person that possibly you can learn from him or her also is extremely important. And that is how you get creative ideas as well.
So I like this entire logic of people having the need for self-esteem and self-respect, which gets triggered and even amplified when you incorporate and involve them in the why part of the problem and not only in the solution. So now getting into your personal space of the way you have led your career, I've seen you at a time when you were a COO and now you are in this entirely new role. How did this idea cross your mind that I should be doing something of my own, or how did you articulate that problem statement, sir? How did that journey begin?
Yeah, so no, you're right. I mean, see, I have been a professional almost my entire career. So sometime it looked a little, I would say, funny also that late in the career you thought about it. And yeah, I mean, it is pros and cons both. So because of my long journey, having spent, 10 years in Reliance earlier and then in NTT NetMagic, you were able to come across, you started very, very young. And because you never said no to any so-called problem came to you, which ultimately become opportunity to you, you kept on getting opportunities and you kept on growing yourself. Nobody, so many times people don't ask you to do anything, right? And most of the time people will just stick to whatever is my job. I will do that 9 to 6 and I'll go home. In case you keep on expanding your horizon, that you rather ask for more and more work, ask for more and more problems and be a part of the solution to more and more problems. And that does not require which department you're working on, which age you are in. That is the mindset. Automatically, the people who you report into, the people who are in your ecosystem, they ultimately, what do they want? They also want people who can support in solving their problems at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to tell, that's my life experience, that you don't have to ever tell or highlight what you are doing. It becomes automated in the eyes of the people, and they will start entrusting you more and more with more work. That does not mean your professional expertise, but that sense of trust and respect they start getting on you. कि इसको कुछ काम दिया तो हो जाएगा. When they start getting that, and even if it's a work which is new to this person, but his inherent capability of getting into something and solving, that start increasing your scope of work continuously. And that is possibly how, from a young manager, maybe in my start of my career, to maybe what I have been able to come today, is all thanks to maybe some of the inherent thing which I sort of developed myself, and I kept on seeing the benefits of this. And that journey took me, ultimately to where I exited my last organization. And there, what I saw, Ridhima, was that the digitization, adoption of cloud, adoption of data, the way which is happening in the country, in the especially in the last couple of years, e-commerce and data adoption, OTTs, YouTubes, mobiles, 4G, now upcoming 5G. All these things have led to a huge boom in the data center industry in India. While it was growing quite a good pace in maybe between late 90s to 2014-15, but the last 5 or 6 years, it has just boomed. It has boomed like anything. Large cloud operators came and set up their shops in India. We were able to meet up this demand in a big way because we pre-planned, right? We could see these things coming, and we pre-planned, and we were able to meet up quite a lot of this demand, and we grew quite a lot in my previous stint. What I could clearly see that all the underlying market tailwinds, the drivers, are pointing that India might need this infrastructure almost 10 times what it is today.
Yeah.
Right? And if you have to meet up that demand, if you have to participate in that opportunity, you probably need to bring in much serious players who have got resources, right? When I'm saying resources, right from land and the building construction capabilities to power to gas, every single input element which gets into data center. And unless until we combine those underlying capabilities with the people who know what is data centers, people like me and my team, we possibly cannot create a magic story in India. So this was, again, I can call it maybe creativity. That was the mind that at that time, nobody thought about it. Possibly now I get to know worldwide people have not thought about it, which in our language called combining the capabilities of a PropCo, property company, with a OpCo, operating company. Operating company is the people who know.
Could you repeat that again? Combining the capability of?
Combining the capabilities of a PropCo, in our language we call it property company, with a OpCo, which is operating company. Property company are the companies who own land, who can construct buildings, the real estate people, and who own resources like power and gas and buildings and all. OpCo is the operating company which knows what is a data center, how to operate it, how to run it, and how to meet customers' requirement in that. So PropCo in my combination represent Hiranandanis, right? And OpCo in my combination represent me and my entire team, right? Worldwide, largest of the data operators either are doing PropCo role or they are doing OpCo role. Nobody has got or thought of the idea of combining all these capabilities under a single roof. That is the idea possibly came into my mind. That was there in my last couple of months in my previous stint, where I thought that if I have to literally meet that big picture, the big requirement of India, $5 trillion economy, $1 trillion will be digital economy. Of course, I am always very, very motivated by what Prime Minister Modi is trying to do or talk about and all that stuff. Genuinely, I think very, very strongly about all that. So I thought that here is a lot of things. You are doing something possibly for the country in a way, right? Which otherwise professional like us cannot do directly, indirectly, in whichever way. Yeah. But you are also satisfying your professional, business and personal goals as well, because you will create something very, very large, which can satisfy your individual aspirations also, not only in terms of money, but also in terms of having done something for a big idea. So that is where I thought that the person who I need to talk to is Mr. Hirandani, because I had worked with them in my previous stint. They used to be my vendor, used to give me the building.
Okay, vendor.
Right. They used to be my vendor. I used to take the land and the raw building from them, and I used to build data center on the top of that. So there it was a relation of me being the customer and he being the vendor. So and then of course the blueprint of the business was always there with me, how to run and how to create this business. So one fine day I approached him and said that, sir, this is the idea. And of course, same communication, ability to first the things which I answered.
No, but connecting the dots must have been a journey in itself. Yeah.
It was absolutely everything what I said. It was like I just connected many dots. India's overall requirements, how I saw in the last 20 years happening, various drivers in the market, including data localization, cloud adoption, data growth and all. Those were the things which are there in the air. Hirandani having so much of capability, that is a demand satisfying thing, is there in the environment. Me having the capability to being able to run this business, and for last 20 years, so many people who will be willing to work with me is there in the market. But somebody had to connect all these dots, the demand dots and the supply dots.
Yeah.
Somewhere in my mind, I was able to connect these dots, create this picture, put it into a presentation. And then the next part was convincing myself that this is doable. You have to be very true to yourself. Yes. You can neither be overconfident, neither you can be insecure. It has to be a fair mix of you being confident. And then you being communicative enough in explaining to people. And that's what I did to Hirandani, is that what I am trying to do, how I'm trying to do, and why I'm trying to do. And I think credit to the Hirandanis, they have taken less than 3 weeks in signing off on a business plan, which was almost like $3 billion.
So did you say $1 billion, $3 billion?
$3 billion, right. So literally took less than 3 weeks in saying, Sunil, this seems to be great. Let's start get going. And thankfully the DNA matched. I am a person who believes in a lot of agility. And, same was the case with Darshan, who is the next generation of Hirandanis. And they say, okay, let's start. And within 3 days, I was sitting in a cabin in Hirandani building, and we just started, and on a blueprint and white paper, we just started. And things just started falling in place. So same thing. We had a very big picture. And after that, we started writing down what are the logical steps to execute it. And within those steps, we started fine tuning the steps, and you started putting the resources, you started putting the respective steps and the money, and obviously things start coming in place. And during all this time, whether it was 18 months back when we started or whether now, even today, the visualization of me or Hirandani is talking on a world stage, being maybe the topmost 1 or 2, 3 providers, talking to people, addressing people, that visualization, my people being very happy working in Yotta, those things they flow in front of my eyes like they are happening right now in front of my eyes. So those are the things I feel, they keep on giving you some sort of internal motivation also to do these things.
So sir, a lot of people have this question in corporate setup, that how do we influence people to our line of thoughts and our line of ideas? And I am actually not feeling angry, but I wish we would have had this conversation before we started the project at Yotta, because this entire narrative is a brilliant example of creativity and connecting the dots, sir.
That's true.
I want to know from you, sir, what do you think worked in your favor that led the Hiranandani group to take this huge bet on your idea? Because let's take it. It was an idea on that piece of paper, on that PPT. So what do you think worked in your favor? What did you do right? And your suggestion to people working in the corporate world or entrepreneurs, how can they increase their chances of influencing people through their ideas?
I think the first part, of course, is your own personal credibility. I think that comes foremost, because people, so many times I've heard, and I sort of believe firmly, is that people invest on people, right? Beyond a point, people don't even invest in ideas. People believe in people. People trust in people, right? So what is your credibility? And that credibility does not come with some designations. Ultimately, credibility comes with what you have done possibly, or what you represent as a personality, as a behavior. So in my case, maybe that I would not say, yes, there was a background of, oh, this guy has made 15 data centers, is so-called known as data center man of India entity background, that was there. And that obviously played the highest. But there were like tens of people within Hirandanis who were actually saying, oh, if you get this guy, then we are done. because they had worked with me, because when they were my vendors, they were working with me for last 5 years. There were tens of people in the market they talked to, the customers and all. Those are the customers I had interacted when, in my previous stint. And those customers, oh, you're talking to Sunil Gupta, just get him on board. Things will be done. The people were not talking too much about my technical capabilities as such. They were talking about, oh, this guy, once he gets into something, he does not stop unless he achieves something. That is the type of sort of, maybe feedback, but I get to know later on from Hirandani is that that's the type of, message
that's
they get.
That's the kind of aura you have created through your thoughts towards action over a period of time.
Exactly. So that is what was important. Of course, at the end of the day, there was a very sound business plan, because ultimately we were talking about big money. At the end of the day, we may have the best of the credibility. The market drivers should be there, and the sound business plan has, right? And that is what something which they could see. So here there were many things we were working in our favor. Number one, as a consumer, as much as you are a consumer, as much as I am a consumer, Hirandani is also a consumer of digitization. They're also as much using mobiles, they are as much using broadband, they're as much using TVs and OTT and Netflix and YouTube of the world. So everybody is knowing what is happening all around you, right? Till the time they know that all the digitization ultimately runs in a data center. So they can just have a very quick feel that yes, data center is important, because digitization, whatever has happened in our life, is only going to grow higher. It's not going to grow lesser. Today, it is human beings like you and me who are using internet through our mobiles. Tomorrow, it will be machines, which is already happening. Our refrigerators, our TVs, our sensors, our toll booth stations, our electricity meters, everything is connecting to internet, and everything will start giving data and receiving data from internet, right? And all the data is so this thing they knew that the cloud operators have come in India consuming a lot of space, data center space. They knew about it because they had worked with me in NetMagic. So they were aware that I was literally every year I was constructing one more center building. So they could see the telltale signs of this sector growing, right?
Yes.
So many, and of course, as I said, that the market drivers, that market is growing. My personal credibility, I would say more as a human being and a person, less of like anything else. And a sound business plan, which could show them by way of a nitty-gritty of numbers, how by investing what money, how we can, generate as much money. And then the execution plan. As I said earlier, that not only you talk about the strategy part, that what you want to do, but the how you want to do is important. So there was a complete strategy right from, which markets I will go for, which type of customers I'll go for, how I will address those customers. My organization structure I presented to them right on day one, end-to-end organization structure. I was able to convince them also that what type of people I will to bring on board immediately. And that is what happened, because again, there was a long stint of 20 long years when people had worked with me, and most of them practically were more than willing to put their, I would say, put their bets behind, which is thanks. I think they took their own, I would say, their own creative steps of taking those type of calls, and they came. So all these things actually were part of the discussions and presentations I did to Hirandani. So at the end of the day, any investor, be it Hirandani's or any private equity investor, anybody, ultimately they have money. That money in the bank does not generate anything. They would like to invest that money into ideas which give them higher returns compared to other ideas. Because in the market, anytime you'll have tens of ideas, you like to put and bet your money into those ideas which give you higher returns and which are more credible ideas where the risk is less, right? Highest return, lowest risk. Present a very sound business plan backed by good market drivers. And also you are able to show a very tangible execution plan on the top of that, coupled with your own personal integrity and I would say credibility. I think that does the stuff.
So out of sheer curiosity, how much time did you take to curate all the presentation and everything that you had to present in front of the Hiranandani group?
Not much, frankly speaking, not much. What I did, I mean, frankly speaking, it was what I was doing in a day-to-day. See, frankly speaking, I was running the last organization in my same role. It was like you are running in the company, somebody had invested money, but you were still running it day-to-day as a CEO.
For that,
my designation may not have been communicated that, but I was literally doing everything end-to-end like this only. And every time in that organization also, whosoever my investors at that time, Japanese and all, whenever I had to execute a new data center, a new product, why they should bet their money on my new idea or new project, right? So practically you actually do those steps time and time again. That is the part that becomes a part of your DNA, that becomes a part of your job, right? And the same qualities and the same execution steps come into picture, right? From strategizing to putting into a thing, doing the numbers and then presenting it, convincing it, always and always thinking from their shoes, you know, standing in their shoes. What might be their insecurities? What might stop them in going ahead with my plan? If I'm able to visualize that and able to satisfy those concerns, they will come on board with it. I give the best of the strategy. I give the best of the big picture. I give best of the market drivers and everything, but I don't convince them how I will execute it. They will never bet their money on me. So till the time you're able to take both the things, convince them on the opportunity, but also able to give a very tangible, visible way of how you will be able to execute it. Absolutely. That they generate confidence in you. That is important. And I think, frankly speaking, for me, it was like, just like I was talking to my promoters in my previous company, here I was talking to a different set of promoter.
So it was like, you know, at times they say you should practice the way you perform. I think your previous stint was complete practicing stint where you were running the show.
Anyway. Absolutely. And frankly speaking, beyond a point, I also feel that over preparing for certain things also lead to a lot of artificial way of doing things.
Yes.
You should present yourself what you are in a natural way, and people actually accept you with your deficiencies and inefficiencies.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir.
The moment you try to artificially put a sort of a blanket on the top of you and try to show yourself as 100% perfect, people will stop believing.
So you spoke about a very interesting facet. You said people knew my personal credibility. It was not about technical expertise, but it was personal credibility that if you give work to this person, it will be done. Now, I want to know from you, sir, many people, when they're doing their corporate job, I think they just do the work that they're supposed to do because it's given by their bosses and they have to deliver it. And they say, "Ha, kaam ho gaya na, I'm more than happy." What would be your advice? And it could be people at Yotta, it could be people at large, that how does personal credibility get built on day-to-day basis, on incremental basis? Because, you know, I often hear, oh, entrepreneurs need to build a personal credibility. Our job, it is this job, it's to be done and it's, you know, done and dusted with. So what's your take on that?
I think I answered in a different way in the previous question on the same thing. First is whatever the job is given to you. Okay, let me give you a little philosophical answer to this.
I'm all yours.
You have to be extremely selfish. Okay, looks like very negative word, right? I use the word selfish in a very, very positive way. The moment you say whatever you're doing for your own sake, right? You stop blaming people. Right? You start owning everything. You stop blaming people.
Okay.
You start owning everything what you are doing. Right? So if somebody is asking, maybe your boss or manager, you are a young person, your boss or manager is coming and asking you to do something. If you do something with the thought, oh, it's 6 p.m. and now he's asking me to do, so why should I do it for him? Right? Do it for him. You have put, maybe the manager will have some other way to get the job done. He will crib, he will criticize, and he will get the job done maybe from you only next day. But you have lost your chance to gain the trust. You have lost the chance of feeling good yourself. Why you lost? Because you thought you were doing it for him. If you had thought at that time that I am doing it for me, myself, by spending extra time, when I go back home, I will have a sense of achievement. Forget impressing anybody else. I will have a sense of achievement that I did something out of the way. Second thing what I did, I was able to tell my manager subconsciously, even while we didn't utter a word, that this guy can be trusted. Even if beyond his conventional work, I asked him to do something which was unconventional or maybe beyond his regular time, he can do my work without cribbing, with open hands and heart. Next time, if I have some job, possibly I should go back to this person.
Yeah.
That is what managers want. Beyond, I so many times say, we feel managers want aptitude. I think more than aptitude, people want attitude.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that is what does many, many things. You actually, because you thought I am doing it for myself, because this will help in building my credibility in front of my manager. And more than anything else, it will actually give me my personal satisfaction. I did something beyond my job, right? And this is going to help me only in building my career in future, which means you are only and only responsible for what you are doing yourself. You are never doing it because your manager was asking you to do. I would say the biggest root solution, that how you think about anything you do in your life, anything you talk, anything you do, anything you think, everything till that time you think that you are doing it for yourself, right? You will immediately start becoming happy because you are doing everything for yourself. You'll immediately become very responsible. You start owning everything what you're doing, whether it is good happening, you'll have a sense of respect for yourself. If something is bad to you, you will not crib, you will not criticize. You will say, okay, maybe I made a mistake. I will improve upon this, right? So this is something which is very, very important for people to have that. Sorry, I'm just trying to connect to you. What was your question?
How can people build credibility on everyday basis? Little by little.
And if I try to connect it to my own story, frankly speaking, I mean, I was a young fresher. Even when I entered Reliance 2000, I was like an 9-year-old, experienced manager at a mid-manager level at best. And I joined there as a product manager. Nobody asked me to handle business. Nobody asked me to get into technologies, right? There are many things which possibly was not part of my job. But because it was a small business unit, there were not many people who were looking into this. And you suddenly said, oh, wow, this looks to be very enjoyable, very new job. So you were enjoying it also. You were not taking it like a huge sense of suddenly putting a hat on yourself as if you're doing something great. You were enjoying it. You were enjoying it as a matter of routine. And you said, oh, let me do this also. Let me do this also. Let me do this also. People get into that 9 to 6 thought. Oh, itna salary mila to itna hi karenge. That is the thing which harms people like anything, right? You enjoy doing extra work, right? So that is something which, as I'm saying, it builds credibility, and that builds on whether you are at a young manager level, whether it becomes, you become a part of the board of directors or you get to the C level. That thing of continuously delivering to, what you have been asked to do, delivering more than what you have been asked to do, going out of the box and finding those solutions which others may not have thought. And most of the time delivering it, on time, or even if you're not succeeded, being able to explain why you not succeeded, how we can be success. Again, credibility does not mean that you are successful all your life. No, not way, right? Till the time you are genuine in everything what you did, right? Even if you failed, it's okay. People still have, a lot of credibility in you. I think it boils down to basics. It does not mean some great shakes actually.
It's like creativity is rooted in simple things, but those simple things may not necessarily be easy to do on day-to-day basis. So I'm with that. I really like the analogy of being extremely selfish to do things for yourself. And I think that in certain way also builds a certain degree of entrepreneurial instinct. I mean, later, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you must be behaving like an entrepreneur in the organization that you're currently
serving. Absolutely. And as you, I think the starting said that only entrepreneurs need to think that way and managers should not do, hamara to itna hi kaam hai. Agar aisa hota, if that would have been the case, then I would not have changed the quote and become so-called entrepreneur now, right? I was a manager all my life. I could have thought that way only, that, okay, it's a 9 to 6 job. I will do whatever I've been paid for and then go home, right?
Yeah.
But because you kept on behaving even as a youngster, as a fresher also, you always thought that let me do job beyond what I've been given. Thought process of being owner, right? You call it entrepreneurial, being owner, or trying to go beyond your job and do something more. All these are facets of the same thing. You are trying to own your life. You're trying to own your work instead of just doing it because somebody else is asking to do. And that thought process by default leads you to entrepreneurship as well.
So Neil sir, my last question for you, last two rather, I'm always greedy for more and more questions. My first question is, now that you're leading such a reasonably huge organization, I think Yotta is growing at a meteoric speed. What kind of attributes do you crave in people? Do you want people to display because you think it will be beneficial for them and consequently, of course, beneficial for Yotta? That's question number one. And question number two, if there were 2 tips that you'd like to give to people at large about discovering their own creativity, what would that be?
Almost, I think my answers will revolve around most of the things which I've already said. But having a very, very positive outlook towards life.
Okay.
Owning your life. I have already said that,
yeah.
right? And happiness goes as part of that, right?
Absolutely.
One thing.
Yes.
Ability to learn constantly, right?
Yes.
Right? Thinking out of the box, right? Very, very clear statement, but has got a huge meaning. Thinking out of the box, right? Not following the convention. Learn from convention, learn from what people say, but applying your mind, it frankly speaking is very easy. People simply
कैसे figure out करते हैं कि कोई out of the box thinking कर रहा है? Because you know, a lot of times people associate out of the box thinking with very heavy connotation, like they have to think something breathtakingly or different. मतलब दुनिया बदल जाए.
And that is what I was about to say. It's actually easy, out of the box, or when I was saying creativity, innovation, we have talked many, many times in the past about it. I never connote this for big product, big project and all this thing. You know, day to day, you know, so many day to day you have meetings, people come with their problems and they will say, this is the problem. And now I have to take this step, now I have to go to this tool, I have to press this button, then I have to do this. And sometimes they'll say, why are you doing it? Maybe you could have solved it this way, right? But never offer to them, right? So many times people actually, maybe I can say it in a different way. People so many times get so much involved in the means to achieve an end purpose, they forget the end purpose. Focus on the end purpose, because then to means, oh no, I have to fill up this form. After that, this form, the mail will go to him. He will do this. Then I have to do this. Then it will happen, right? I said, okay, if you're doing this, what is the end purpose? Maybe the process to achieve the end purpose could have been a little different in the given context.
Yeah.
So I think focus on the end purpose, means are important. Right? Adopting the right means is important, but you possibly can have multiple means to achieve the end purpose.
So
right?
Focus on the end purpose a lot more.
Exactly. So those are the things, and of course keep an eye also. So many times your end purpose also may change with time, and we should be very, very open about it. As I said, the environment around us is changing so fast. Changing goals is not a wrong statement. If the environment around you is making a whole lot of, forcing you to make a whole lot of changes in your goal post, possibly it is okay till the time you have given a good thought about it. Yeah. So I think these are some of the basic inherent qualities I would say. And as I keep on saying, maybe if you are 70% okay in the job which you want to do in terms of your aptitude, great, I will accept it. But if your attitude is not good, possibly that will be a problem in the long run, not only for you yourself, but for the organization in a big way, because ultimately it's a team which work, and teams do not work together simply because they're connected by a common job. They connect together because it's a gathering of human beings, and unless until they connect on a human values, you will not be able to deliver as an organization. So I think that is very, that attitude part is very, very important. The positive attitude and all that, as I said, creative, out of the box. First of all, don't take life too heavily. It is still very, very simple. It's still very, very simple. There are some very, very basic principles which if they adopt and keep on taking those principles in day-to-day incremental lives. And again, sometimes people think, oh, only when I become senior at 10 years, 12 years job, when I become senior manager, then I will become creative. Then I will have an option to be creative. Like you gave me the example of some people thinking that maybe my job does not allow me to be creative, or nobody will listen to me and things like that. Possibly you can be creative even as a student in your school and college. You can be creative as a fresher, and you can be creative at mid-manager and senior level as well. Everywhere, creativity may mean improving a small process. Even that is creativity, right? So I think my recommendation to youngsters would be have a very, very positive attitude toward life, have a learning attitude towards life, never stop learning, go beyond your job, right? Do things because you will be doing it for yourself, not to impress others, not for benefit of everybody. If it benefits your organization, your manager, because you went out of the way and did some extra, that is a byproduct. That company also benefit. But you did it because you think it is beneficial for you. And that is something you will not even know. You will never have to ask it. This attitude will take you places you will not even get to know.
The 2-3 learnings that emanated from this brief conversation. One was that creativity is about having big picture, but having it with out of the box thinking and a strategy to achieve it. Otherwise, creativity may be hallucination. And I really like the expression of Kaizen, which is doing incremental things, small things, but on daily basis. I like the entire anecdote of creation of Yotta as an outcome of connecting the dots. I think it's an interesting case study in itself, and we should publish it, sir, someday. I think it's very promising, very compelling. I like that entire analogy of the property company and operating company coming together, and it is one of its kind. And most of all, for my selfish reason and for the audience selfish reason, I like this entire aspect of doing things for yourself. I think majority of the problem starts when we start externalizing things, when we start thinking, my job is not good, my boss is not good, my work is not good, but we don't really question what is it that I am doing right, or what is it that I can do differently. And I think the basic question of what I can do differently is the start point of creativity. Sunil sir, वो हिंदी में कहावत है ना, देर आए लेकिन दुरुस्त आए. तो मुझे लगता है हमारी conversation सितंबर से दिसंबर में हो रही है, पर मैं बहुत आभारी हूँ आपकी कि आपने समय निकाला इस कॉन्वर्सेशन के लिए. I think again, I think you're the master at putting complex thing in a very simple way, and this is very visible in the way you're leading your company, your people. And I really liked this entire orientation that you have, that if people understand the values, Ridhima, mission and vision is just a byproduct. So thank you, sir, for making time for this conversation. And I'm really
literally enjoyed the way you're trying to put together many of these things. And absolutely. I mean, I'm just loving the way you have come up with your own business. I mean, there is a live example of creativity and innovation and having a conviction in yourself and your values. Superb, Ridhima. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bye.